used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Pulse of the people.
We need somebody that's going to hear the people's voice.
The truth the mainstream won't touch.
This guy is by definition a globalist.
And the stories that matter.
RAV's own Ben Berquam.
Right up over this hill. We got an armed cartel.
I see him.
Live.
Breaking news right now here on Real America's Voice.
Unfiltered.
These people are domestic terrorists.
And unapologetic.
We're here to take a stand for God and country. Let's feel good, doesn't it?
America's Voice Live starts now.
Welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. It is Wednesday, the 10th of June, year of our Lord 2026. Let's get the day's top stories. As always, thank you for joining us here on Real America's Voice. Nice to see you on a Wednesday. As Americans demand accountability, some Republicans in Congress are pushing new measures to crack down on fraud and protect hardworking taxpayers like you from footing the bill. I'll bring on Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne from Texas to discuss the details. Also, Republican Steve Hilton has made it onto the final ballot in California to be governor, beating out Tom Steyer, securing a spot in that general election. We'll be able to hear what we have to say about that and what's going to happen in that race coming up. And then later, the Trump administration is going to overhaul college accreditation, opening the door to new accreditors in a major shift in how higher education is supervised in the United States. All that and so much more on the agenda today. But first, I want to start off with that epic hearing with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yesterday was a bloodbath for the SPLC. That bloated, deceptive fraud factory that's been bleeding America dry with its hate-for-profit scheme for far too long. In yesterday's congressional hearings, the American people finally got a front-row seat to the grift, selective outrage, race-baiting hypocrisy, and outright protection by the previous regime. The SPLC isn't fighting poverty or law. They're the Southern Poverty Lies Center, manufacturing threats to scare donors while shielding real extremists and, of course, smearing patriots every step of the way. Congressman Chip Roy did a masterful job highlighting the SPLC's selective outrage during this line of questioning. Watch this.
How many extremist Islamic groups do you have of the 1,500 or so organizations you have on your hate map?
Again, anyone can go to our website.
My office has been looking over and we can't really find one.
Again, it is the SPLC's.
You think right. SPLC could provide us a list of the Islamic-oriented groups that you have on your hate map?
Mr. Roy, we don't target any group because of its religion.
Really?
I want to be clear about that.
Really?
Yes, that's exactly right. We target no group because of its religion. We target groups because they express statements and engage in activities that demean and vilify.
So you brought up LGBTQ groups a second ago. Roy. So you brought up LGBT groups a minute ago. So you think there's a bunch of Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ? Is that the position of the SPLC? I just want to make sure the record is reflecting that.
The SPLC president by the name of Mr. Fair. Yeah, the irony writes itself. Looked like a deer in the headlights. This is their game. Real radical threats get a pass, but prayer flags, pro-life moms, and America First conservatives, straight to the hate list, 1,500 pins. Congressman Barry Moore, he's on the list and illustrated that truth by pointing out and testifying about his experience with the SPLC. Here it is.
Southern Poverty Law Center has spent years putting labels on other people
It has even used hate watch to target me. As a matter of fact, I think the reason I'm on the list, and there's 11 congressmen on this list, is because we simply put a flag in front of our office that encouraged the people to pray for this nation. It's called the Appeal to Heaven flag. Somehow or another, I became a hateful person, and I was put on a hate watch list simply because I put a flag up that encouraged one of the founding flags of this nation to encourage our country to pray for our leaders. And then those leaders are put on a hate list, and it's published.
Targeted by the SPLC simply for flying a flag encouraging prayer for our leaders in our nation. A bedrock American principle. Not Antifa violence, not border chaos, not radical indoctrination. A prayer flag. That's what counts as hate in their twisted worldview. And you heard me right, not Antifa. And President Fair's rationale for that decision was as weak as it gets. Here it is.
All of the allegations that are raised in the indictment will be responded to in the Middle District of Alabama in our filings and pleadings.
Okay, well, explain to me the reason behind targeting groups like Turning Point USA, the Family Research Council, traditional Catholic groups as hate groups, but not groups like Antifa, Jane's Revenge, Youth Liberation Front?
We list groups that demonize or vilify people based on immutable characteristics or that express anti-government conspiracy theories.
Do you believe that Antifa and Jane's Revenge and Youth Liberation Front have committed violent acts?
Congressman McClintock, it's my understanding that the FBI has said Antifa is an ideology, not a group. So a group, if it's not a group, it wouldn't be identified on our list.
So you don't recognize it as a group?
I'm sorry?
So Antifa gets a pass, but not Turning Point USA, who the SPLC put on their hate watch list right next to KKK chapters that were secretly funding, in fact. Yeah, they were funding those folks. The SPLC condemned President Trump in 2020 when Trump said he planned on designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization. So maybe it's not so shocking then that an SPLC lawyer was arrested in 2023 for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an Antifa riot. The corruption, deep and wide, and yes, they delivered quite the series of knockout punches to the fraud factory. Congressman Brandon Gill, quickly becoming one of my favorites, hit them with the abortion hypocrisy that exposes their entire racial grift, too. Here it is.
Do you think that this should disqualify him politically from serving in the Senate?
Again, I'm not sure where the line of questions is going. The SPLC, if you're asking me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you're asking me if the SPLC opposes Nazis and Nazi symbols, the answer is yes.
Yep. The SPLC has referred to this same tattoo as a racist skinhead symbol and tattoo. You can see the resemblance there. You wouldn't want somebody with a tattoo like that in the Senate? No, I wouldn't either.
Finally, some honesty. Fair can't defend it because, well, it's such a mess. This is the same outfit that hides behind civil rights rhetoric while ignoring the disproportionate impact of abortion on black communities. Margaret Sanger's eugenics legacy lives on in their selective blindness. Gill exposed the lie. Their anti-racism is just another weapon against conservatives who value life. Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr., didn't mince words when she went ahead and went head-to-head with Congressman Jamie Raskin. Very entertaining. Here it is.
So do you pay the same people to do the bomb and then go and comfort the people from being bombed? You pay the same people to do both jobs? That's kind of fraud to me. That's weird and chaotic and confusing.
Well, Dr. King, I don't think there's any allegation that anybody who was working with the Southern Poverty Law Center bombed anyone. Do you have information to that effect?
Because I don't personally, but outside agitators did bomb our house in '63 and then ran back and took off the Ku Klux Klan sheets and put on police things and ran up in the yard.
Well, that's
the same people. It was crazy.
I'm with you, and that's a statement about the racism of that police force working with the Ku Klux Klan.
Hey, y'all pay both of them to do the double jobs. SPLC does. Really, you hire them to do the bombing, then you hire them to fix the bombing. That's weird.
Dr. King, you're asserting a lot of things under oath, and you haven't brought the evidence with you. So I think
I'll get some for you.
She's carrying the true legacy of character and justice, calling out the racket that profits from division. It's also evil. Create the fear, inflate the threats, cash the checks, and repeat. It's classic fraud. Congressman Jim Jordan laid out the deepest corruption. He confirmed the Biden DOJ dropped a very clear case against the SPLC. Here's what he said.
They knew the SPLC was doing this, but they didn't pursue the case. They dropped the case. Because when you meet with them, when you consult with them, when you have them train your prosecutors, you're not going to prosecute them. Nope, you're not going to do it because it's too valuable politically. And here's the scary part. And I'm sure we'll have questions from Mr. Fair later on about this. Here's the scary part. It all worked. Field Source 37, the guy at the Charlottesville rally, helped plan that rally, coordinate transportation there, was paid to attend. After the event, again, after the event where a lady was killed, the Southern Poverty Law Center almost tripled their income. $51 million to $133 million after they were coordinating the hate that took place at that crazy rally.
If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. They don't care about you. They don't care about minorities. They don't care about white supremacists. They care about power and money and getting more of both. And this grift would have continued into eternity if it weren't for President Trump and his war on fraud, if it weren't for his DOJ and congressional leaders who have had enough, and they've said enough. This is the full picture of the fraud. The SPLC's hate map isn't about safety. It is a political blacklist weaponized against Moms for Liberty, pro-family Christians, traditional Catholics, and, of course, MAGA voices. They've influenced big tech censorship, corporate boycotts, and government targeting of parents at school boards, all while their own house was rotten to the core. This isn't charity. It's a multi-$100 million influence operation disguised as a nonprofit. They smeared dissent as extremism to justify debanking, lawfare, and cultural cancellation. They need phantom white supremacists under every bed because without it, and without manufactured hate, the donation gravy train comes off the tracks. Real threats like radical Islam get soft treatment if they don't fit the narrative. But saving unborn black babies, that's somehow white supremacy, according to their twisted logic. This connects straight to the weaponization we lived through. SPLC labels are what fed the Biden-era FBI priorities, DHS reports, and media hit pieces against Trump supporters. The MAGA movement stands for the opposite. Unity under America first, secure borders, strong families, protection of life, freedom of speech, and colorblind justice. Not this race-obsessed grift that Dr. King's own family member is rejecting. We've got black, Hispanic, working-class Americans joining in record numbers because results matter more than smear jobs. The SPLC empire is falling. Their time as untouchable arbiters is over. President Trump's DOJ is shining light where it belongs. The laughter in those hearings, that is the sound of grift dying. To every patriot, keep up the pressure. Support the fighters like Chip Roy, Barry Moore, Brandon Gill, Jim Jordan, and truth tellers like Dr. Elvita King. This is our republic. We don't fund our own censorship or division. The best days are still ahead as we drain these swamps and restore sanity. Keep up the fight. And that's the monologue. Coming up after the break, fraud concerns tied to Minnesota are raising alarms over taxpayer dollars being lost to abuse and mismanagement. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne will join me to discuss new GOP-led efforts to crack down on fraud next. So stay tuned.
I'd like to say this is the first time.
1 in 4 kids grows up without a father. That's not just a bland statistic. It's a national crisis. I'm John Popola, host of Dad Saves America and CEO of Emergent Order Foundation. I like to say we're what it would look like if Warner Brothers and PBS had a baby that actually loved America. We're building a movement that defends the family and calls men to step up, not check out. Visit dsa-rav.com today to take a stand for fatherhood and the American family.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
The ongoing massive fraud scandals that are rocking Minnesota have become a stark reminder of what happens when government oversight fails or looks the other way intentionally. As Americans demand accountability, some Republicans in Congress are pushing new measures to crack down on fraud, recover stolen funds, and protect hardworking taxpayers from footing the bill for corruption. The Protecting Seniors and Stopping Fraudsters Act targets fraud in Medicare, hospice, and home health programs, while the Recovered COVID Unemployment Fraud and Banks Act seeks to recover hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars tied to fraudulent pandemic unemployment claims. Joining me to discuss is the person who introduced these bills, Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne of Texas 24. Congresswoman, nice to see you today. These are important measures, and I hope they get traction. I hope they get bipartisan support, but it's strange to me. I see Democrats voting against such common sense measures too often, and sadly probably will again. What are your thoughts?
Well, I hope not. I mean, honestly, most of these are bipartisan bills that we've introduced. But just because you can get a dozen or so of them to vote for it doesn't mean it's going to be able to pass or even see the day of light on the floor. But I think it's important as legislators that we take the effort that this administration is doing to uncover the fraud. And let's face it, it's been a lot larger. It's massive amounts of fraud, a lot larger than I think many of us knew. And so that we actually are taking steps to codify, to put into law how to prevent this from happening, how to uncover the bad actors, to make sure that dollars are not going out, being used for fraud, being used for waste, and being used for abuse. And if they are, like we saw with COVID and some of the bills I'm introducing, that we are giving our government the tools of being able to pull those back. So we've introduced bills, as you mentioned, that have to do with Medicare fraud, hospice fraud, specifically, looking at the example of what's going on in California and the billions of dollars that were lost, to these fraudsters. We're making it harder. We're saying that if you're going to start a hospice and you don't have a good track record yet, there's got to be more transparency in how these things are being enforced. You've got to have more surveys that you're doing and higher accreditation standards to make sure that the amount of fraud that we've seen is not being able to continue. And then we're also looking at some of the dollars that were sent out for unemployment. I mean, literally $900 billion, and about $1 billion of it were in these debit cards that are just kind of hanging around. The money is on the debit cards. The banks have froze the money, but right now we have no way of being able to get those dollars back. So if we don't act, what happens is the funds that are on those debit cards will basically go into whatever state that they are in. They'll go into their unclaimed property areas in accounts. And then the federal government that paid for them, wrote the checks for them, will never see that again. So we're passing a bill that basically pulls back the unspent funds on these debit cards that were found to be potentially fraudulent.
Yeah, if you can claw it back, if you can even find some of the people that got the money. Here's the concern for me and for millions of others. We see $9 billion or more in Minnesota. You see multiples of that in California. But you look at fraud at the local, state, and federal level. Some people estimating fraud in this country could come in at $1 trillion when it's all pushed into a pile and you actually tally up the receipts. I mean, these are staggering amounts of money being taken by people that got up and went to work today, paid their bills today, acted as responsible and honest citizens, and they're getting ripped off. They're getting robbed blind, aren't they?
Yeah. I think a lot of that starts with, basically having tax laws, in place that could prevent some of it. I mean, we've been talking at, Ways and Means about ways of, seeing some of the NGOs that were getting dollars that they should never have gotten, that were basically used to work against the best interest of our country. Some of them were even foreign funded, going after them, make sure, one, they don't have tax exempt status, and making sure that they're accepting dollars, that you are showing a whole lot more transparency in where those monies are coming from. That's one thing that we're doing, and some of these other bills that we're looking at. But you mentioned with Democrats letting this happen. Just yesterday we saw every single Democrat vote against a bill to fund support for immigrations and customs enforcement in our border protection. A lot of those dollars, especially when you start uncovering what's going on in Minnesota, a lot of those dollars were going to people who are here illegally, and we've seen this time and time again. And Democrats just seem to be more interested in supporting folks who are here illegally than the American taxpayer, than the working family. We have got to make sure that Americans recognize that. There's only so much that we can do if we are not in the majority to be able to fight some of this stuff. And these are bills that we are passing common sense. Everybody should be on board. I think Americans, this is like a minimum, that we should be passing these things to prevent this from happening. But God bless, literally every single Democrat on the floor last night voted against protecting our borders and making sure that folks who are in our country illegally getting some of these benefits are being deported. And I don't know what to say about that other than let's send them a message in November.
Well, we certainly hope that this has traction and is bipartisan. Before I let you go today, though, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Carmelo Anthony verdict yesterday. Young man accused and now convicted of murdering another man at a track meet. They were both teenagers. Violent attack. Stabbed the victim, Austin Metcalf, in the heart. He died there. But what I found shocking were the protesters outside saying that Carmelo Anthony was somehow the victim. It all happened in your state of Texas. What is your reaction?
I think this guy brought a knife, to a track meet to start trouble. Potentially with the idea of being able to kill somebody. And he did exactly that. He went over, he started, mouthing off, he started a fight, and then he stabbed somebody. And instead of anybody looking at this, not looking at the color of his skin, not looking at his family background, but simply looking at this, what he did was absolutely wrong. It was murder in cold blood. And they had witness after witness after witness that testified that. You mentioned the protesters that were defending this guy. This kid does not fall far from the tree. The apple does not fall far from the tree. Look at his family. Started a GoFundMe account, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yet they didn't really care what happened to their son because he still had a public defender. But God knows where those dollars went. But his family, by the way, was one of those people outside the court that was heckling the Metcalf family, telling them that they were glad that their son was dead. This was the family of the now proven killer in this. I think it's sad that we have allowed that the Democrats specifically are, you're seeing them, these politicians that are pounding their chests saying that this was an injustice. This was cold-blooded murder. Every witness saw it. They had it on film. I don't know what more they need to be able to prove that this was a hate crime, and he got exactly what he deserved. In fact, I would have been much more satisfied if he'd gotten either life in prison or even a death sentence for doing this and proving that you cannot be a thug like this and take an innocent life. This is a family. The Metcalf family is never going to be the same again. Think about all of those kids that were there. I mean, the brother, his twin brother, that held his brother while he died in his arms. This is what they did to that family for absolutely no reason. And then they've got the gall last night after that verdict is read to say, "Yeah, I'm glad that your son is dead." It's despicable.
Yeah, it is despicable. Congressman, thank you for being here today. Greatly appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
It's great to see you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, after the break, Steve Hilton has beat out billionaire Tom Steyer in the primaries for the California governor runoff. Hilton will now face former Biden cabinet member Xavier Becerra this November. But can a Republican actually win in California? We'll discuss it coming up on ABL.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset. But what happens when you no longer need it, or you can't afford it?
Real America's Music is turning it up with Natasha Owen's brand new song, TDS.
'Cause you got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS.
Funny, fearless, and guaranteed to trigger the meltdown crowd, this is the anthem everybody's talking about. Scan the QR code right now or search TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes and pre-save it today. Let's run this song straight to #1, Rav family.
You got that TDS. You tested positive.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Republican Steve Hilton beat out billionaire Democrat Tom Steyer in California's top 2 primary. He finally made it to the end yesterday, a week after the primary, but now Hilton will face former Biden cabinet member Xavier Becerra in a high-stakes battle to lead the nation's most populous state. We've all seen how California has been governed in recent years and how the Democrats have driven the state into the ground, but the real question, have the people of California had enough of this nonsense? Have they? Joining to discuss is the Daily Signal columnist and author Drew Thomas. Alan, Drew, nice to see you here today. Look, he finally made the cut. They still, I think, have like 32 more days to count ballots in that state. Strangest thing. Never used to be that way in California, but they say Steve Hilton made the cut. We'll take that. Spencer did not in L.A., of course. You know that. But what do you make? Can Steve Hilton make a run at this thing, or is it even possible?
I mean, you got to believe in some possibility because you got to get out there and make a strong effort. But if you look at what happened in Los Angeles with Spencer Pratt, you know, there's not a lot of faith in the institution and the government and, you know, honest elections. I mean, California effectively is America's banana republic at this point. I mean, you've got manipulated elections with the voter laws or lack of laws in most cases. You've got suppression of the opposition. You've got crony capitalism. You've got the systemic looting of, you know, public resources. And that's California for you. And, you know, look, the reality is, I always try to explain it this way, Steve. If you didn't require ID, if someone was going to buy alcohol, for example, how would you ever say or know how many underage people were buying alcohol. You wouldn't. It's not possible. And that's effectively what takes place in California. We have no voter ID required. We have universal mail-in ballots, which, France rejected because of, a wide-scale corruption and abuse and fraud. Mexico has done away with it, but California, wants to outdo these countries, and they bring it here. I mean, they separate the envelopes from the actual ballots. So, chain of custody is always destroyed. There's no way to effectively track down how much fraud there is.
Right. There's no way to know because there is no chain of custody. You don't know where the ballots come from. There's no voter ID. How do we allow this to happen? And when I mean we, I mean 49 other states. California has, in my estimation, 7 members of Congress they're not entitled to because of the way they cheat on the census, which means they have a disproportionate amount of power in Congress, more power in the Electoral College than they should have. I've talked about this for years. Don't other states have standing to say, look, you can't do that? There's got to be a solution here, Drew, other than the SAVE Act. There's got to be some other solution because we sit here watching California steal power from the rest of the country, do we not?
Yeah, I mean, the Trump administration is going to have to get kind of creative. I've seen some things coming out about related to the post office and how they're going to try and, maneuver some things as best they can from the federal level. But, I mean, it's tough. I mean, look, from the very beginning of the founding of this country, from George Washington on, everyone talked about, how important morality was, in maintaining this republic. And even Abraham Lincoln, 20 years before he was president, when he was just a state senator, he gave this speech, the Lyceum Address, and he talks about how you think the Constitution would prevent a Napoleon Bonaparte from, trampling it and trying to rise to power. And that's what we have. And, California, this has been going on for decades. And, unfortunately, a lot of people have been asleep at the wheel. There's a lot of suppression tactics because people don't believe in the system. They don't have faith in the system anymore either. And it appears right now that there's just nothing that can be done because you do have the Banana Republic of California in which you have, 16 years now of, supermajorities and Democrat governors. And they're doing everything in their power to, prevent transparent elections. I mean, days before the election, the primary, Gavin Newsom signed into law, a law that they basically said, we're going to, if you're going to interfere in our elections, which would be, trying to get transparency with voter rolls, et cetera, you can face 3 years into prison. I mean, what kind of governor is this?
Yeah. I want to shift gears with you because, people reach their breaking point. And apparently we're seeing that in Northern Ireland today. And I say that because a young man was attacked by an asylum seeker who was granted 5 years to settle in to Northern Ireland. He stabbed a young man, blinded him, and people stepped in and saved his life. But then the people of Northern Ireland took matters into their own hands, burning the homes of these immigrants, burning their cars, a huge police presence now. It was quite the event. It seems that they've had enough of all of this invasion. I don't know if you saw this story, but what do you make of it?
Look, this is the fruit of the open borders, destroy the West, left, whether it's in Europe or the United States of America. And of course, when the left and BLM, Antifa type groups or, imported illegals or, Muslim populations, et cetera, go and burn stuff down with no justification whatsoever, they defend it. And unfortunately, you get anarchy in these situations. And, it's a horrible thing. I don't endorse violence, certainly. But that's the inevitable conclusion when you have a government that is doing everything in its power, governments, I should say, throughout the world, to, whether it's replacement theory, getting rid of the current population and bringing in people that cannot assimilate and they don't require them to assimilate. I mean, I'm sorry,
they don't want to.
If you've got people on the streets in Ireland that are immigrants that are trying to behead somebody because they're white and Irish on the street, what can you expect?
Yeah, at some point there's massive blowback, and I think that fuse has now officially been lit in the UK. Greatly appreciate you being here. Nice seeing you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Now, by the way, if you're 64 or older, this is something you need to hear. Medicare is complicated. You know that, but it doesn't have to be stressful. Chapter is the only Medicare advisor that compares every plan nationwide on the phone with you. They'll look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your priorities, and they help you understand what you actually have and whether something better is available. No pressure and no agenda and no cost. After one call, Jody said the experience was a blessing. She was blown away by how knowledgeable and honest the folks were. If you're already on a great plan, they're going to say, hey, you're good. If you're not, Chapter will help you switch. Folks who found new plans with Chapter have saved an average of $1,100 a year. Call 843-MED-HELP. Take 20 minutes and see for yourself. 843-MED-HELP. Like I said, it's free. And I think you'll be glad you did. So go ahead and give it a call. After the break, the Trump administration is moving to overhaul college accreditation, opening the door to new accreditors, and a major shift in how higher education is supervised here in America. Details coming up.
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't traveling a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about
Real America's Music is turning it up with Natasha Owen's brand new song, TDS.
'Cause you got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do but chronic low IQ. It's TDS.
Funny, fearless, and guaranteed to trigger the meltdown crowd, this is the anthem everybody's talking about. Scan the QR code right now or search TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes and pre-save it today. Let's run this song straight to #1, Rav family.
You got that TDS. You tested positive.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Probably have not heard, the Trump administration is proposing changes to the college accreditation system that could fast-track federal recognition for a new Florida-led accreditor. The plan would lower barriers for new accrediting agencies and make it easier for colleges to change who does the job. The move comes as Florida and 5 other Republican-led states back the Commission for Public Higher Education, an alternative accreditor supporters say would prioritize student outcomes over political or ideological concerns. Quite the idea, right? Joining me to discuss is the assistant editor for Campus Reform, Will Biagini. Will, nice to see you back on the program. Look, we need to prioritize education, not ideology. I mean, that's the takeaway here, right?
Absolutely. So this is a crazy story to talk about. So the Department of Education is weighing this new proposal that, as you said, could fast track the path for new accrediting agencies. This really isn't talked about enough. It's often overlooked. So this new proposal would allow newer accreditation agencies, which basically govern in some capacity what colleges teach in schools, to secure federal recognition. That's great because for far too long, these legacy accreditors have been able to build sprawling DEI bureaucracies that in in turn push DEI regulations onto colleges. We wonder how this stuff ends up in curriculum. So this proposal, it would be great to see this pass. It's finally some good news.
Yeah, so how would it work, and what would be prioritized, and what would no longer be important?
Absolutely. So the main issue that they're targeting here is the rampant DEI that's in our colleges. We talk about this all the time, but what's often overlooked is one of the main reasons how that ends up there. So major accreditation agencies are the pathways that universities, one of the pathways that universities have to securing federal funding. So these colleges, many of them are in a pinch where they have so few options to choose from. There's not a lot of competition that these legacy accreditors have been able to push DEI regulations onto colleges. So it, in turn, after a domino effect, ends up in curriculum. So this new path would allow newer accreditation agencies with anti-woke missions that vow to return merit to education to secure federal recognition and even the playing field, widen the options that colleges have to choose from.
Yeah, one of the big problems in America, and it is a problem, is student debt and students that are graduating with degrees that are absolutely worthless. Well, you know that, and so do I. My solution has been the same for a long time. Make these universities co-signers on the loans. And if you're 5 or 8 or 10 years down the line and that degree was worthless, then that university, that institution of higher education is on the hook. But maybe this is a step in the right direction. At least I hope it is. I'll give you the last word.
Absolutely. This is absolutely a step in the right direction. We need to see more accrediting agencies, take these spots. And a great option for this is Florida's Commission for Public Higher Education. This is an example of a new accrediting agency that is vowed to return merit to the scene. That's the gold standard of education. And we here at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform have reported that several states, several colleges in states like Georgia have joined. So, for example, Columbus State University, Georgia State University, it's part of a broader national trend where colleges need to not be forced to implement DEI into student curricula. And so that's what we need to see nationwide. So we hope this proposal passes.
Yeah, I hope it does too, because we need better accreditation. We need better education. And if that means better accreditation to get us better education, that's a step in the right direction. Will, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, my friend. You can always send me emails. Tell me what's on your mind. SteveGruber.com. Look it up. Send me an email, no matter where you might be in the country. Always interested in your input. Don't go anywhere. America's Voice Live will continue after a brief commercial break where I'll discuss the latest jobs report, the economy, and everyone's favorite, gold. That and more coming up on America's Voice Live.
Get ready for new music from one of country music's rising voices. This Friday, Rachel Holt releases her brand new EP, Great Idea, a collection of songs filled with heart, honesty, and unforgettable storytelling.
We've been working on this project for probably the last 2 years or so. I like to sing Real America's country music. We're trying to get the origins of country music back.
A new release from Real America's Music. Download it now. Scan the QR code or search Great Idea by Rachel Holt on iTunes. Don't miss the new EP from Rachel Holt.
Everybody hates Beth. She eats all the food she loves and stays slim. Kim starves herself.
Real America's Music is turning it up with Natasha Owen's brand new song, TDS. Funny, fearless, and guaranteed to trigger the meltdown crowd. This is the anthem everybody's talking about. Scan the QR code right now or search TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes and pre-save it today. Let's run this song straight to #1, Rav family. You got that TDS. You tested positive.
every storm, every moment of uncertainty.
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because you have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Folks, people like you work hard every day to try to be financially responsible. It's tough when prices are up and things are expensive and national debt hangs over everyone's heads. With the midterms on the way, one thing that's always on voters' minds is whether we're doing well financially and as if the economy is on the right path. Joined to discuss, precious metals specialist from Birch Gold, Philip Patrick. Philip, nice to see you today.
Good to see you, Steve.
I think we're getting mixed messages. I saw a jobs report that was double what it was supposed to be a couple of days ago, but today, not a good inflation report, 4.2%. It's higher than it's been in about 3 years, actually. Obviously, that's driven by high energy prices as a fallout from the war in Iran, but I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. The economy, what do you see?
Look, it's a very tough spot to be in. And, you know, this was broadly expected. The markets were expecting it. As you rightly point out, core inflation remained fairly low at 3%, which tells us we're not seeing runaway inflation in every corner. This is being predominantly driven by higher energy prices. Interesting timing, though. This puts the Federal Reserve in a very tough spot. Inflation, of course, is moving away from the 2% target, not towards it, which makes it much harder for Kevin Walsh, for example, to justify a rate cut shorter term. That doesn't bode well for debt and deficits, which you and I discuss a lot. So it's a strange one. Even the higher job numbers that we saw led to a fairly aggressive drop in the market at the end of last week, simply because it told investors that Fed were going to have to keep rates higher, and they know what that means for debt service, debt, and everything else. So it's a very strange economy where good news gets a bad reaction.
Yeah, it is interesting. Look, the jobs report came in, and they absolutely blew away expectations. It was supposed to be about 85,000 new jobs. It was 172,000. And March and April were both revised solidly upward. So there are jobs. People are taking jobs. That's positive. The unemployment rate, 4.3%. That's not too bad. I mean, not too bad at all. But when you have inflation like that, because real wages were growing at about 3.5%, well, now inflation outpacing that. So, like I said, mixed messages.
It really is. And in a normal economy, growth when it comes to jobs would absolutely be celebrated. But the problem is we're not living in a normal economy today. We are in a debt-heavy, inflation-sensitive economy, and growth actually can start to be complicated, right? Because strong hiring means more income means more spending, and ultimately more demand. And if inflation stays elevated, the Fed are going to have to choose between supporting growth and defending the purchasing power of the dollar. So, you know, what we saw on Friday with that big drop on the back of good news, I think it was really a warning. We've built an economy where good news for workers is bad news for investors, and ultimately that's not a healthy economy.
So let me ask you this, Philip, because this is the wild card, and that's the war in Iran. You know, for weeks now, the president has said, we're close to getting peace. Now, today, he basically said, time's up. We've given you all the time we're going to give you. Nothing has happened yet today, but everybody's watching. I'm watching. People are watching to see what happens. If the war resumes, what does that mean? And if the war does come to a close, what does that mean? Obviously, oil will flow again. Economies will perk up. But right now, nobody's sure what's going to happen. So give me both scenarios.
Yeah, look, it's uncertainty. Look, I think the best possible scenario is we put an end to this thing very quickly. And if we do, we should see oil prices start to come down. That'll benefit the domestic economy, the global economy. It'll give the Federal Reserve some breathing room. If it starts to tame inflation, they can look to start cutting rates and try and stimulate some economic growth. That's the best case scenario. The problem is the mullahs in Iran are very difficult to negotiate. And I think for the first time in a long time, President Trump is going in with less leverage. They know that he's got midterms coming up this year. You know, they know the strain on the domestic economy is going to cause a political problem for Trump, and they're trying to force a good deal. I don't think he's going to be in a position where he's going to give them a good deal. If this thing extends, we're already starting to see the effect. We'll see inflation, I think, get much, much worse. That's going to box the Fed in. Maybe they have to start raising interest rates. By the way, the percentage chance of a rate hike in December is increasing significantly already. If that happens, that puts President Trump's growth plan really at risk and ultimately doesn't bode well for the economy domestically or globally. So I think everybody, maybe apart from the Iranians, wants to get this thing wrapped up as quickly as possible.
Philip Patrick, always a good conversation. Thank you, sir, for your insights, as always.
Thank you.
And remember, you don't pull the ripcord on the parachute after you've already hit the ground. Seems kind of silly. So you don't wait for economic turbulence to diversify your investments. Text the word America to the number 989898 and claim your free information kit on gold. It's never too late to learn to diversify your savings and your investments. You've heard all the turmoil, all the controversy. So text the word America to 989898. Text the word America to 989898. Do that today. After the break, we'll have a story that reminds us of how wonderful America is, plus your answers to our America's Voice question of the day. What are your thoughts on Carmelo Anthony being found guilty of murder and being sentenced to 35 years in prison? Your answers after the break.
Hey there.
Real America's Music is turning it up with Natasha Owen's brand new song, TDS.
'Cause you got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS.
Funny, fearless, and guaranteed to trigger the meltdown crowd. This is the anthem everybody's talking about. Scan the QR code right now or search TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes and pre-save it today. Let's run this song straight to #1, Rav family.
You got that TDS. You tested positive.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because you have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Is going to hate this one. Real America's music artist, Natasha Owens, is back with a brand new song, TDS, a fun, tongue-in-cheek anthem about those suffering from a serious case of Trump derangement syndrome. Let's show America what the Rav family can do and push TDS all the way to #1 on the charts. Download it today by scanning the QR code or searching TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes. And don't stop there. Grab one of the official TDS shirts, the perfect gift for the patriot in your family or that liberal friend who needs to lighten up with a good laugh. Scan the QR code and order yours today.
All right, what makes America wonderful? We do it every day in the hopes of putting a smile on your face. John Burnett and his wife, Patricia, moved in 1976 and built their life together in Warwick, Rhode Island. He retired from his life as a roofer back in 2020, but instead of being able to enjoy the next chapter, tragedy hit as Patricia became seriously ill and, well, she died. In grief for a year, John was frozen with no desire to do anything, but then he began going back to what he enjoyed doing, fixing things. Driving around Warwick, he began noticing discarded items. He would bring back what he could and became very busy, sanding, painting, repairing, and restoring anything from furniture to equipment. If you were to visit his home now, you'll spot a sign with his phone number and the always changing selection of items that he now sells. What was discarded junk has gotten a second life in its value for others. Intentionally keeping the prices low, he knows money's tight and sometimes doesn't even charge customers at all if they really need what he's got. What makes America wonderful are the people like John, who refuses to let tragedy break him and instead uses his skills in the days left given to him to fix things for other people. Simple kindness, being a neighbor, being an American citizen. All right, your question of the day, what are your thoughts on Carmelo Anthony being found guilty of murder and then sentenced to 35 years in prison? Great Escape writes, based on presented evidence, the jury verdict of murder was correct. Anthony is eligible for parole after serving half of that 35-year sentence, which puts his age at around 36, if he's released. Maybe he can salvage the rest of his life, maybe not. Choices have consequences. He now faces the consequence of a very poor choice. Proud Elephant writes, it's too bad it wasn't a life sentence. I'm sick of people defending a kid who brought a knife to a track meet. Who does that? I am the Wolfman. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Justice for Austin. Chip Sorensen says justice is served. Wahika Bob has this. I expected a lifetime prison sentence. Forget 35 years since this murder will be just 52 years old. After all, he earned a lifetime sentence. And let me see. Let's just leave it there. Why don't we just leave it there for today? I didn't like the other answers. Instant editing. There it was. No was the answer. James just had a heart attack in the control room. At any rate, thank you for joining us here today. I will see you again tomorrow, but I'll be in the West Palm Beach studios for tomorrow's program, and then live into the studio as we produce a song for Real America's Music. It's coming out soon. I think you're going to like it. I have that feeling. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Until then, have a great afternoon.
Old school online security tools leave you half protected.
Real America's Music is turning it up with Natasha Owens' brand new song, TDS.
'Cause you got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do but cry.
Funny, fearless, and guaranteed to trigger the meltdown crowd. This is the anthem everybody's talking about. Scan the QR code right now or search TDS by Natasha Owens on iTunes and pre-save it today. Let's run this song straight to #1, Rav family.
You got that TDS. You tested positive.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news.
America's voice. We don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel and take Go Pills to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
Go Pills and Soldier Fuel locked in.
Go Pills are packed with neurotransmitter support. Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Mic on, lights up. Soldier Fuel keeps me dialed right in.
Both are used by the U.S. military every day.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
And they're now available to you.
This is huge.
Scan the QR codes below and order your supply today.
Here's that pop. So good.
Go to buysoldierfuel.com or search on Amazon.
This is performance fuel. Clean energy, sharp mind. That's how we do it at RAV.
Visit buygopills.com and get 15% off